Hello and welcome back. I'm going to do a couple quick updates on what's going on with the game, some of the new stuff that I've added, what I'm working on, and just show the progress since the last video. I believe the last one at this point in time will be a playtest. I'll be getting a new playtest out soon. You'll be able to see just how huge things have changed since that previous one, and I'm going to work on getting playtests out for Act 2, 3, and 4 here soon, hopefully. 2 might take a while. It's by far the largest section. I think Act 2 is larger than Act 1, or Act 3, sorry. Act 3 is the largest. I believe it's larger than Act 1, 2, and 4 combined. It's massive. There's a ton of stuff to do there, so... yeah, I'm going to start this video here with this map. This is a sort of a... I'm trying to add more puzzles, little games, things to do that kind of take away from the monotony of just running around fighting stuff. So, I'm going to launch this up. New game. And so here we have... you've got little fire barriers. You can't walk through these. And when you interact with these braziers, it turns the little firewalls on and off. So, the goal is there's a chest up there. There's a chest down there. And then there's a chest in the corner. So the goal is to try and get the chests. Because, you know, loot. Everyone likes loot. There's the third chest. So you just kind of have to mess around and experiment with these different different walls. So you can see there's a yellow wall there. If we get rid of that, then... So we need to get up to that yellow crystal to turn off the yellow wall. But this one... So if we turn this off... No, not quite. So we gotta go here. There. So now we can get up to here and turn off that yellow. So that that white crystal is what turns off the green walls. And we get to our first loot. Okay. Then we can go... Now these yellows are gone because we got to that crystal. We can get the next chest. Then up top, pretty easy path to the last one. So, pretty short, simple puzzle compared to most, but decently fun. Easy to get through. Some nice little rewards, just to give you a break. From running around exploring. Next, I'm going to do some crafting stuff. So I'm going to quick add a add the debug crafting book. So as you can see here, we've got a lot of crafting recipes. I've got the debug book here because everyone needs a way to test things. And actually, if I go back here, I have... Here we go. Gain all items. These... Okay, this one gives all food. This one's all named items. And this one's kind of starting stuff. So let's take the named items. Tutorial. I'll put it right there. Player. So, for those of you that don't recognize it, that's the give all items squares and things like that. Those are a really popular tool for game testing. It lets you try out basically anything that needs a variety or a lot of items. And so as you can see here, I have all of the recipes now. Ah, but I don't have the swords that I need to get everything started. Ah, but I can craft. So I can craft the great swords and great axes. But I need ghost equipment for the other stuff. So you can, you see you can craft in batches. I'm just going to try to craft a bunch of these. Sword, great sword. Okay. Can I craft any of these? Nope. But I can craft some other stuff. So here we've got fancy throwing daggers. Got drinks. So all sorts of fun stuff. You can craft cards. These actually give you batches. So here, see, I've got 107. I'm crafting one, and it goes up by, what is that, 8? Similar to this. See, I gained 7, or I gained 8 there. So all of these actually give batches of cards. They're not a one-off. So 2 Essence of Light gives you 4 light cards. Potions are batches of 1. Yeah. So, items. Calvin can't actually equip any of these, unfortunately. So the Great Axes are for one of the hidden characters. They have a Sunder ability. The Great Swords have a Cleave. Okay, so Great Axes will reduce the armor of anything hit, and the Great Axes will hit 2 or 3 targets, depending on the level of the Great Axe. Elemental weapons boost the damage of that element, so if you have a full set of earth equipment, so earth helmet, chest, boots, sword, whatever combination thereof. The smallest one is 15% per piece, so that gets about 60% with the full set. At the high end, you're looking at closer to 150%, and that's before you add in any other modifiers or any other bonuses, any statuses, so you can do some real serious damage with these elemental abilities. The downside of the elemental abilities, of course, is that some enemies are resistant or can absorb them. So that's just a quick overview. I'm going to move that there, and let's remove the debug. So that's kind of a quick overview of what I've been working on. I'll show you directly in here some more stuff. Weapons. So here we've got end game equipment. These you'll sort of build throughout the game. Here we've got lesser elemental S-class and the X-class weapons. Swords. Okay, so it's 10%. So 10% for the lesser stuff, which will put you at about, let me just double check that, 10, 20, 30, 40. Yeah, so 40. Yes, okay, so it's still times 4. So lesser stuff, 40% bonus damage. The high-end stuff, you're looking at 100%. And I think I'm going to boost that as well. I really want the elemental gear to feel stronger if you're using that right element. I might even, with these very high level ones, I might add in some kind of reduction to the sort of the antagonist element. So fire chain, you deal bonus fire damage, but 5-10% less water damage. So that, that encourages you to kind of mix up your playstyle depending on what region you're exploring. As you can see over here, fire weapons, you can apply burning effects. They just give a passive 5% damage boost to elemental, magic, and physical damage. Crit rate, slight hit rate, high-end gear, of course, is all going to have the higher crit rate, or a hit rate. Cannons, air has a small chance to do a small amount of free damage, or a kind of small chance to do a heavier amount of damage. Water, we've got staggered and slow effects, earth, bleeding, and stun effects. Of course, the cannons, well, you guys don't know this, but the cannons are meant to be paired with a character that's already going to be very elemental heavy. So the right combination of gear on her is going to make her very, very powerful, or very tanky, or very versatile. She's going to have a very heavy focus on either status effects, stun specifically, or sheer damage output, depending on what kind of setup you're going for. She's also going to have a lot of health buffs, so she'll sort of be able to fill that tank role. She's going to swap out with Joan the Mage, so she'll have a similar damage output, maybe a little bit higher, but she'll be a little bit tankier. Her gear is going to be a little bit harder to get. She'll have fewer abilities. Okay, Jones has a lot more elemental abilities of a lot different elements. She also has, some of the instant casts, whereas this character will not. The character that uses the great axes, great swords, scythes, and chains, that character is going to swap out with Margaret, and is going to be very strong powerhouse with a lot less in the defense area. He is actually already in the game right now. You can get him. You've been able to get him since, let's see, we're in November now. Probably since August, I'm going to say. He's been in the game a very, very long time. He was one of the first designed characters. And he's fully playable, fully leveled out, and everything like that. So if anyone's able to get him by the time this video comes out, please let me know down in the comments if you know who he is. And maybe you can share how you got him with everyone else. Staves, rods, those kinds of things, of course, those are all going to be Joan, axe, Margaret, sword, Calvin. There is another hidden character who uses the staves. She is also already in the game. I think she was the first extra character that you could unlock. She's been in since July, maybe even June. She was added very, very early on. And she swaps with Lewis. She's another healer. She's a very powerful healer, but has almost no damage output. So she's a very, very specific build. I'm going to show off one more thing too. I've added some really neat combat mechanics that I'm working with. So far, I think they're pretty solid. I'm going to keep tweaking them. Let me show you. So let's Calvin, Margaret, Joan, and Lewis. And we'll put everyone at level 10 with just sort of their starting gear. Okay. So, these are punching bags. They don't fight back, but they're great for demos. We're going to do an attack, and I'm going to turn it down a little bit just because I can't control the volume in this demo. Attack, 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 attack. So they're each attacking someone separately, and if you look, they're getting these little crystal things at the top there. These are marks. Each character will have a unique mark that when you target that character with someone else, so for example, Calvin cannot use his own mark. Someone else has to hit it. So I'm going to just adjust. Everyone's going to attack one person down. Each mark has a unique effect. So let's watch. Calvin, he's going to get focus. Margaret, she just got a magic bonus. He got focus. She got a magic buff. So most of them benefit the person consuming the mark. And you can see they've applied the marks again. So every time you attack, you will apply these marks with anything classified as a standard attack. There's, some spells and things that won't. But like, I believe... Well, so for example, I can use Magic Dart, and that'll consume the mark and apply a mark. And Calvin has a second mark. This is a special mark that has a different effect depending on who consumes it. So, and I'll show all of these in more detail shortly, but I'm just going to demonstrate that you can see the mark goes away and is replaced by Calvin's. Okay, and Calvin now has the benefits of all of those marks he consumed. So these are very, very useful for in a fight. They can give pretty significant buffs in the right situation. All of the characters will have these, even the hidden characters. They are definitely something you're going to want to play around with. So closing this, I'm going to go to the marks. We've got, so inherited mark. Here's that special one, and this is a whole mess of code, of course. But basically what this is saying is that depending on who hits the mark, you're going to get a different thing happening. So if actor 2, being Margaret, hits the target that has this mark, target add state, so the person with the mark, the enemy, will gain the bleeding status. So this allows you to guaranteed add bleeding to the target. If actor 4, Lewis, the priest, if he consumes the mark, your entire party is healed for a small amount and gains some of their magic back. Then, if actor 3, which is Joan, if she consumes it, she gains the inspired stat, which gives plus 10% to her magic damage. Then, so character 5 is one of the secret characters. They will gain... so Candace is actor 5. She'll gain additional actions. So she has a chance for a lot of different actions, but it reduces her attack and magic during that time. So that'll be a great time to apply a bunch of status effects, finish off some weaker enemies, maybe buff allies, heal up, things like that. That'll be a very, very situational, very useful effect. Actor 6. State 103. I believe this is going to be... Yes. Okay. So, if Actor 6 is Speedy, that is the healer. If Speedy consumes this, it will apply it'll apply her mark to the target. Regardless of how she consumes it. So Speedy being a healer, it's difficult for her to consume and apply marks, so this is going to be very, very useful. And then lastly is the dragon. I'm sure most of you saw that. If he consumes the mark, he will gain his flight bonus, which gives a boost to hit, crit, and evasion rate. Pretty solid bonus. And that's just passive. These are all free to apply. They come with the character, basically. Calvin's Mark. Anyone who consumes Calvin's Mark will get that state 23 there, which is focus. This increases your hit rate. Next, we have Joan's Mark. Anyone who consumes her mark gets that inspired effect, which is that plus 10% magic damage. Okay, so Calvin's special mark can give Joan inspired, but then Joan can give everyone else inspired. Margaret, add state, also gives the focus effect right now. Still not sure. That's going to change. I haven't quite decided what I want hers to be, though. Because I want them to feel unique to each character. I'm probably going to give sort of a partner effect to Joan's mark. So Joan gives that magic buff. I think Margaret will instead give a physical damage buff. So that way you can play between the two of them on who gets the buffs. Then lastly, Lewis's buff. Whoever consumes his gets minor magic regeneration. So if you play that properly, it'll be a great way to keep Joan and Calvin topped up for their magic. The Dragon's Mark... Or no, this is Cadence. Cadence's mark gives stat 35. So whoever consumes her stat gets a healing buff, gets healed, a health buff, and they'll be a little more durable for a short time. Then Dragon's Mark, whoever consumes his, they will gain Dragon's Shield. This applies health buff, heals them, grants guard, counterattacks, reflections, and allows that person to apply the burning status for a short time. So this is a very, very good tank buff. Maybe combo him with a tank build Cadence, or a heavy build Calvin. You could combo Dragon with Speedy and Calvin and get a really solid defense build going there. Lots you can do with that. This is also great if you got a character that's very low on health. They can consume that mark. They get guard. They do get taunt, but between the guard and the counters, it should be minimal. Or it'll be a great way to sort of blaze of glory. Whoever hits them will get hit back pretty hard. And the marks are still in the very early stages. They're very, very solid, though. I'm very much enjoying how they're working out. And lastly is Speedy. I have not mentioned Speedy's marks yet and what they do, because Speedy has a lot of marks. So Speedy's marks are a little different. She has one mark for each of the main stats, and then one mark that actually has the symbol. Whenever she attacks, whatever thing she hits will always get this mark. And will have a chance for each of these marks. So whoever consumes her mark will get short, random buffs to between 1 and all of their stats. It makes hers a little bit more random, which very much fits her personality, as you'll come to learn. But are very powerful, can benefit anyone in the party at any time. Just a very solid character to have in your team, especially if you play it right. You put her mark on every enemy, per se. Then that means you can just get buffs on your whole party very quickly. So those are sort of the main big mechanics I've been working on. Recipes take a surprising amount of time, but they're going really well. By the end of it, there's going to be 4 different levels of elemental weapon, 4 different levels of elemental armor. All of them are craftable. Most of them will be lootable, and there'll be recipe books hidden all over the world to be collected and found. And those will let you craft the equipment early, or they'll let you craft it much easier than it is to find it. Overall, it's going to be a very I'm trying to make it somewhat organic, so you'll find these pretty progressively as you go. Some of them you'll be able to buy from unique traders and special merchants. It'll let you really gear up your party exactly how you want them to be. If you're leaning very heavy into one element, these will be really great tools to buff that element, especially for individual characters. There's 4 elements that the elemental gear focuses on, 4 characters in the party, so that does also open up that opportunity. You can sort of mix and match who goes what. Calvin has a couple pretty solid fire spells. He's got the strikes that are all the different elements. Margaret isn't very elemental, but she does have strikes as well. Joan, very element heavy, so whatever element you want to pair her with, she'll be perfectly fit to that. Lewis has some elements. Most of his stuff, he does have some status effects. He does have armor penetration. So you'll have to kind of decide what you want to do with him. Speedy will work well with any of these, since she doesn't really use many of them. But they do weaken the damage taken by the corresponding or the antagonist elements. So that'll be good, if you're going into the fire area. Maybe equip Speedy with some water gear. That'll keep her alive a little bit longer. Dragon, very element heavy. So whichever of his abilities you're really leaning into, or whichever weapon of his you happen to have, if you don't have the set yet, that'll let you really focus in, beef up those attacks, and turn your party into serious powerhouses to take on the end game and the later bosses that are going to be pretty tough. I'm trying to keep combat fairly light and quick, easy to understand, easy to run through, but I want the boss battles to be a little bit heavier, a little bit more intense. You've worked up to this, so they'll put up a fight. It's not going to be a cakewalk, especially early in the game. Later in the game, I'm going to have to throw in some interesting mechanics. It's not going to be anything too brutal. Not a fan of things like one-hit kills, super heavy attacks, things like that. It'll be a fairly fair fight. You'll be fighting very tough enemies, but ideally you'll be on par with them. So it'll come down to your use of strategy and your selected equipment to determine if you can come out on top, or if you need to revise your strategy and come back and try this again later. As I've said in a previous video, this game does not have game over like most similar games. So if you die, you go back to town. You will not lose progress. It also has autosave features. So while there are some consequences to death, you are not overly punished. The goal of this game is you should be able to complete it, learn the whole story, experience the world through Calvin and his friend's eyes, and get, piece together what's going on. So, the game is is a vehicle for the narrative and for the experiences. And I'm going to really try to bring that to the front as well. So that is what's going on with Calvin's Gallery at this time. Lots of stuff coming down the pipe. I'm going to be adding in a bunch more of these puzzles. As you can see, I've got the ice area is pretty much done. Few little details here and there. Little tweaks. There's always little tweaks, though. Next area is coming up. We've got forest is done. Desert, pretty sure it's done, but like I said, it's desert very content heavy. There's a lot in the desert, lots to do, lots to find, and I'm going to plan on adding more to pretty much every location. There's going to be a ton to do, lots to explore. I really hope everyone enjoys it. So, thank you for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. Comment down below what you thought. Comment down below what your thoughts are on the marking mechanics. What your thoughts are on puzzles. How do you like the elemental gear? Do you have any predictions for the different secret characters? How do you think you find them? Can you guess which two are already in the game? And maybe how to get them. One of them is pretty easy to figure out, but how to get them on your team might be a little harder. One of them is very hard to get, but definitely worth it. And then the third one has not been added yet, but that's because they don't show up until later in the game. They are, they're in the game, they've got stats and stuff, but you can't unlock them quite yet. Very soon, though. I'm going to be very excited for that day, because then, full team will be there. It'll be fun to see how many people can unlock all 3 secret characters before the full game releases. Please share this video, and let me know down below what else you want to hear. Thank you for joining me.